Hey there, Mark Montgomery here with Great College Advice, and we're looking at the common application prompts, and we're going to look at the prompt on when you questioned a belief or idea, when you stood up, spoke truth to power. So let's read the prompt in its entirety, and then we'll dissect it and think of ways to respond to it. Reflect on a time when you questioned or challenged a belief or idea. What prompted your thinking? What was the outcome? Okay, reflect on a time. A story is inferred in this prompt. We need to tell a story about the time that you actually stood up and questioned that belief or idea. And then we have to identify what the belief or idea you were standing up for. And what we're really looking for is a conflict of ideas, a conflict of beliefs between something that you hold dearly and it's a value, it's something that you care about, and it's the conflict that you might have with someone else who does not share that same belief or idea. So we're looking for a conflict, and then we're looking for the story that explains or describes that conflict. So we got to tell the anecdote. And then we're going to do the reflection, right? We're going to explain what happened and what was the outcome here and what was your thinking when you were standing up to this belief idea, which is the question, why? Why did you do this? Why was it important for you to stand up for this belief or idea? Why was it important for you to have this conflict that resulted? And then what was the outcome? And you're reflecting on whether or not, would you do it again? Would you go after the same principle again? Or did you learn no, that was a dumb idea. Shouldn't do that. I was too hasty. I was too angry, or I didn't do it in the right way. So there are lots and lots of ways in which you can respond to this prompt. One of my favorites was a student, and this is a fairly easy one, is a young man who actually has a disability himself, a physical disability. And he was walking to school one day and he saw another group of kids from another school taunting and making fun of one of their classmates who was clearly developmentally disabled. And they were just mocking this kid. And at first, Aaron, my student, was standing back and going, whoa. And really taken aback by this. He didn't know what to do at first. But he's on crutches and he has difficulty walking. And so he just wailed on his crutches and went up to these other boys and yelled at them and told them that what they were doing was wrong. And at first they were like, yeah. But then they noticed that Aaron, my student, also had disabilities. And Aaron even said, if you want to make fun of somebody, why don't you go ahead and make fun of me? He said, go ahead. Because he's got a physical challenge that's very obvious. So that shut them up, right? It just totally shut these kids up. They immediately stopped because they couldn't disagree with what Aaron was saying. It was clear that they were in the wrong, right? So that's a really obvious example of the standing up to a belief or idea. But sometimes it's more subtle. Sometimes it's standing up to a belief or idea where you're not actually confronting the person, but you're maybe subverting, or you're trying to, you see something that's wrong that you want to right, and then you work in interesting ways behind the scenes to try to right the wrong, or to solve, or to make things come out the way that you believe morally, or in whatever the other way you believe is right. So you're looking for a conflict of ideas, something when you believe something very strongly that you look at this is wrong. I got to do something about that. I have to say something. I have to do something. And that is the anecdote. What happened? When you confronted those kids on the street, you were on your crutches and and went after these bullies. And then what was your thinking? Why did you do it? And that's the big question for any essay. Why did you feel compelled to do this? What was your thinking? Why did you do it? And then, would you do it again? And of course, in Aaron's case, he's like, yeah, totally, I'd do it again. In fact, it felt so good the outcome was so satisfying that I have a lot more courage to do it the next time and to really stand up for somebody who's being bullied. It really it empowered him, someone who has a disability, to actually say, you know what, I can defend other people with disabilities. That's not a problem. That's something I can actually crusade about, right? So it was really helpful for him. But you can think about lots of different times in your life, whether it's politics, whether it's moral issues, whether it's conflicts with parents or peers, or when peers are doing something that you just think is wrong and you have to part company. Or even sometimes when you're looking at authority figures. And yeah, this might be the rule, but that rule doesn't make any sense as applied to this particular situation. You're looking at that analysis. You're digging deeper into what is really at conflict here. So this prompt has a great potential to lead to a very sophisticated essay. And what am I going to learn about you as a reader? I'm going to learn about your values. I'm going to learn about what's important to you and what is so important to you that you're willing to stand up for it and you're willing to go after it. Now again, sometimes we go after things and it's a mistake, right? We goof up. We do it in the wrong way. We have no impact. So even that, though, is like the failure prompt, right? It's a good learning experience. We can learn from that experience even if we wouldn't do it again, right? But this prompt is a great one to really get at your beliefs as a human being and being able to then share that with your reader. So what are you looking for? You're looking for the conflict, you're looking for the story, and then why. Why did you do it? Why did you act this way? What was the outcome? And yeah, would you do it again? That might be a helpful piece of the prompt. So go out there and battle this prompt and have fun. We'll talk about the other prompts in other videos. See you soon.